Hello, my stupid ad. Darn, curse you! You ruined my entrance. I'll start again. Hello, my fellow readers. Dark Symphony 777 with a fan fiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notifications. Leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts of fan fiction, any future fan fictions you want me to read or review. And this is my opinion. My opinion is not indicative of everyone in the world, so please respect that. So, we're back at it again with one of my favorite authors, Starving Lunatic. And it's a story that I really, really love when I first read it, but now reading it again, I kind of see the flaws in it. At least some minor flaws. And that is, where is that story? Another Time, Another Place. It is, what else? A Kigo fanfiction. It's a romance drama that deals with kind of like reincarnation, stuff like that. And I have to admit, it is a good story. And I did say it was one of her better stories. Honestly, it's one of the better Kigo stories, but actually one of the weaker Starving Lunatic stories. Starving Lunatic has like around 100 stories. And, you know, some of them are going to be weaker than others. This is on the weaker end. But if this story is on the weaker end, but still a good story, what does that leave some of the other stories? Like, 1 in a Billion? 1 in a Billion? 1 in a Billion is amazing. So, let's start the story. So, the story actually starts something on a kind of hilarious note, where Shigo is cleaning the attic of an old house that belonged to her family by orders of her demonic mom, Isabel. Blah, ha, ha. And then we get like a pretty funny moment where Shigo kind of just stops giving a fuck and throws a box down the stairs, hits her mom, and then pisses her pants when her mom says, "Don't make me come up there and kick your ass!" And she's like, "Oh." And then she finds a journal. She manages to kind of touch a nail, and it opens a little cupboard that finds this journal. And then she finds out, you know, the journal was written by an old lady named Kimberly Possible, Dr. Kimberly Possible. And so she goes to Kim, kind of sneaks in her house, and then they read the journal, as well as we're also throughout the story. There's also a separate plot. There's 2 plots. One is the modern day, and then one is the 1800s. The modern one is Shigo and Kim. And for the sake of this purposes, since reincarnation is a thing, I'm gonna call the modern day versions of the characters Shigo and Kim. But the 1800 the past versions of the characters, Kimberly and Shoshona. That's Shigo's real name in the story. I don't know what's with Starving Lunatic and constantly kind of giving her different names each story. Yeah, it's kind of cute. But, oh god, it gets kind of confusing because if I remember in the 1 in the Billion series, her first name was Shiona instead of Shoshona. Stuff like that, I can't remember. It's been a while since I read 1 in a Billion. Oh well. So we get sort of a dual plot with Shigo and Kim on one hand and Shoshona and Kimberly on the other. And in the modern day version, their plot is basically they're trying to figure out how the journal of Kimberly Possible got into Shigo's house. And so they kind of read that and, you know, go on this little journey of, you know, trying to figure out where this journal came from. And they slowly start to fall in love. Which is, aww. It's a Kigo story. Where do you get? The 1800s version of them. Their story is Shigo is an unrepented lesbian. Like she'll lay with all the women, and her dad is tired of that. So her dad takes her to an insane asylum. That is run by and she gets a new doctor, Dr. Kimberly Possible, to kind of help her cure her treatment of lesbianism. And so their story is them slowly falling in love, and Shoshona trying to convince Kimberly, you know, like you have a husband, but you don't really love him, and he doesn't really love you, and you know you have to find true love, and sometimes true, you know, loving another girl is not a mental illness, stuff like that. And over the course of their story, they fall in love, and you know they have, you know, Kimberly gets a kid, but she dies at the end, which I think helps out the story a little bit, and slowly kind of falling in love with, having to want to be happy. So the main point of the story is love will always find a way, even through the idea of reincarnation, which I admit is pretty clever. And always be proud of who you are, and don't have other people force you to change. And we have the stories kind of interweaving out, and then because they're always kind of talking about Shigo and Kim are kind of talking about their thoughts on what's happening in the journal, while we're actually seeing it play out in kind of sort of real time through the past versions of themselves. It's not until the end of the story that I kind of realized there's it's kind of an idea of reincarnation, when Shishona says I will always love you, and when we die I pray that sometime we will be able to fall in love in a time where we wouldn't be shunned, and we wouldn't be ignored, and we'd be able to actually show our love to each other without nobody coming after us, which is Shigo and Kim. So, we have, there's lots of reincarnation shenanigans like them, and, overall, I do like the plot. I think the idea of lesbianism in the past version could have been done a little better, but that's really minor, because, it's still done relatively well. I just think, it could be done better. It could be. Keyword, could. Should in this case, that's up to the author. So characters, we have 4 characters. We have the past versions and the present versions of Kim and Shigo. So let's start with the present version. Shigo kind of acts like a more toned down version of Shishona. She's still very over the top, snarky, and loves kind of teasing him, but wants to prove that she can stand on her own 2 legs, and more wants to train to defeat her mother in a test of skill. And openly admits that she starts to like Kim over it. It's like, yeah, it's fun hanging out with you, and she wants to get in bed, but she knows that knows when to time it right. And Kim is Kim. She's probably the least interesting character. That's not saying she's a bad character. It's just Kim is the least interesting. She does have a few quirks in this story. Like, there's actually a scene where where Shigo and Kim fall asleep, and Shigo kind of wakes up, and she notices Kim is looking at her because Kim actually sleeps with her eyes open. That's an actual thing, and she freaks out. It's like, note to self, I gotta teach Kim how to stop doing that. And she gets out, and she really doesn't like that. She still she has to learn to stop being over relying on, become addicted to work. They kind of help balance each other out, with Shigo kind of being this over the top snarky person and wants to be free and wants to train, while Kim is this ultra free spirit who needs someone to ground her. And so they kind of help. Kim kind of helps Shigo relax and open up and be more free, while Shigo helps Kim be more grounded, so that way she doesn't constantly wear herself out all the time. On the flip side, you have the past version of the characters. You have Shishona, who is an unrepentant slut. Every time, most of the stuff she talks about is, let's get in your pants, I want to get in your pants. And it's always some kind of slutty innuendo, some snarky twist. Like, the story even makes out a point saying that whenever, like half the time when Kimberly and Shishona are together, Shishona will randomly just say, take off your clothes. Come on, take off your clothes. Take off now. And it's kind of the same thing. And Kim is a very ultra-tight conservative woman who believes in marriage. She married a friend of hers more out of convenience than actually loving him. She's like, oh, women have to be, and men have to be married. And, she's okay with that. And they're understanding that, that she's cheating on her husband. But, she sees that, I don't want to, but I have to, because I fall in love with this woman. I have to follow my heart. And so it's kind of the opposite. So, like, with Shigo, I mean, Shoshona being, the free spirit who needs the grounding, and Kim being the conservative woman who needs opening up. It's a complete role reversal. There are other tidbits that kind of role reverse as well. Like in the past version, Kimberly could cook, while in the present version, Shigo actually cooked. And there's quirks that kind of switch persons in between the generations. And I really liked what the author did with them, kind of doing a reverse mirror image thing, and all the little clues that kind of reveal that present time Shigo and Kim are the reincarnations. I thought that was a really nice twist with their characters at the end, kind of revealing that little tidbit. Shoshona the only other character would be Shigo's mom, and she was done better in 1 in a Billion series. 1 in a Billion, Shigo's mom was completely hilarious, honestly. And she was much better done in that story than this one. But the characters, they're pretty good. Grammar, I saw about 2-3 grammar errors. That's fine. Pacing, the duality of the stories kind of make it. Why do I hear meow? Never mind, I'll ignore that. The duality of the story is kind of keeping pace. It's done well. I think maybe on the modern side of things that Shigo and Kim's story should have been stretched a little longer. Shoshona and Kimberly's story, that's fine as it is. Mainly because that's more seen through diary ideas and more just and snippets. So how that's structured is fine. I just think the author could have done a little more and made Shigo and Kim's relationship not really as forced. It's a little forced in the modern day version's relationship because they're enemies and they warm up to each other, and we don't really get that scale of scope that they genuinely love each other. They do. It shows that they love each other. I just think it could have been slower based. Like I'll talk about it when I get to what I would change. I do think the pacing for the past versions, again, it's fine. Nothing wrong with the past versions. The present versions, their relationship just felt a little forced. Mainly due to the ending, how the ending ended. And I really didn't like I did like the ending, but I didn't like the ending. And that's mainly because of the epilogue. There was a fanfiction I actually reviewed a while ago, A Soldier and His Gardevoir, and I mentioned that the ending with the bittersweet ending, with the main human died and the Gardevoir, mourning his death, that was a perfect way to end the story. And then the author added an unnecessary epilogue, and it completely killed the whole impact of the ending. With Another Time, Another Place, it was a good ending, and I really liked what the author did with the ending. It's just the epilogue kind of made the ending redundant. Let me tell you what I mean. I honestly think there was so much mileage on this idea. There were so many story kind of minor plot holes that were still left unneeded. First off, there was Shoshona's dad. Yeah, he just disappeared. But there could have been done something with the moment Kimberly died. He's coming after her or something just to check on her. There could have been something with that. A lot of stuff from Kim and Shigo's story, like them visiting Nana all the time, Shigo training, Kim finding it, because in the epilogue, Kim finds a kid and they argue. These are all things that could have easily been slotted into a second story. And that's honestly what I think this story should have done. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. So the plot is good. The characters are good. There's a couple minor grammar errors, nothing too major. And the pacing, and the only problem I had with the pacing was I think the modern versions of Kim and Shigo went a little fast, in my opinion. but nothing, nothing like completely story ruining. Just, it could have happened over a longer period of time. Would I recommend the story? I said it at the beginning. I'll say it again. This is one of the better Kigo stories, but it's one of the weaker Starving Lunatic stories. She has written better stories than this. There's no doubt about that. The 1 in a Billion tetralogy, probably the most prevalent. It's probably her most well-known fan fiction, which is saying something since she wrote nearly 100 fan fictions. But still, this is still a very good story. I just think the author could have done more with it. But that's just minor in the grand scheme of things. Favorite part? I don't really have a favorite part. Nothing really stood out to me. Like, there was a bunch of moments scattered throughout the story that I really liked, but it didn't really stand out. It was just a very basic humdrum drama story. Granted, the author could throw in tragedy, but romance drama is fine for what it is. Romance kind of swaying more towards Kim and Shigo, but drama swaying more towards Shishona and Kimberly, with having to hide their relationship. The whole lesbianic thing. There is a Castlevania fan fiction, Deluge, that did the whole being a homosexual in like old times in the 1800s better, mainly because the author didn't use the idea to its best potential. And now we get to what would I change? First off, I would change. And this is more gonna be like minor stuff. I would actually make the whole use of lesbianism in the past version itself a little bit better. It's a little weak, especially since Shishona's dad he's a mayor who kind of pays off people, and he just thinks, oh, lesbianism is a disease, and so constantly brings her to the asylums, and she escapes, and it's kind of repeating, and so he just locks her up, calls her to like Dr. Kimberly, and I said, try and heal her. We don't really get a sense of scale. We're pretty much just stuck in the asylum, and then at Kim and Shigo's house, and then Kim's house. And I was like, it's good. It could be done better. Going back to Deluge, the main point, Laura's main character flaw, character motivation behind having to hide her lesbianism was, she fell in love with a gypsy who was wandering by. They had sex, people found out about it, and then she was actually tortured and lynched in the square of the city she was born in, with religious jerks kind of dumping water on it. But that's Romania. Honestly, this is actually around the time where the Salem witch trials were actually starting. So I didn't think. So I think the whole lesbianism was kind of weak, especially in that time frame, especially since around that time, lesbians and stuff like that, they were being treated as witches and need to be stoned or need to be flamed. I wouldn't go that far because I believe Middleton's in Colorado, if I remember right, and the Salem witch trials were more like the New York area, those states, I would have just liked to see a little more tension involving the act of lesbianism in that time area. That's pretty much it. Just some kind of tension, rather than playing it fast and loose. Like, oh, there's a lot of lesbianic women. It's just. I just think it was a little weak. It could have been done better. But the main criticism I have with the story is that epilogue. I just think there was more mileage out of the story. I wouldn't change anything with the epilogue, but I would make a sequel to the story. This story needed to be told in two parts. This story really needed to be a duology. It absolutely needed to be a duology. While, you know, One in a Billion, yeah, it's a tetralogy, and that story is long. Even if I do review the One in a Billion series, that's gonna take me a while because that's like nearly 2 million words. Like, literally, I'm not joking. Going off track, the last story in the One in a Billion tetralogy is over 1 million words in and of itself. And the first story, I believe. Crud. Let me actually look. One in a billion. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Where is she? Where is it? There it is. Yeah. Okay. I honestly call it a 1 in a billion series because it's not really. Wait. No, wait. 1 in a billion is 300. Let's see. Let's see. God's supposed to be laughing. Let's see. On a short leash. Let's see. Alright, so. Okay. Walking the Line is 91,000. On a short leash is 153,000. Where's the third one? No. Gods Must Be Laughing is 293,000. And where is it? 1 in a billion is 326,000. That's around 1 million. Yeah, that's actually pretty close to 1 million words, and it took me nearly a month. Granted, I have read as large stories before. Misconceptions was around 800,000, but the difference between Misconceptions and 1 in a Billion series, the 1 in a Billion tetralogy, 1 in a Billion I actually really liked, while Misconception was just more boring, and it was really good for what it is. I did do a review on it. It was very good, but I just think I just kept falling asleep in it. But back to the story. I think there was too many plot threads that needed to be resolved. Lingering tensions with Shishona and her father. We didn't finish Shishona's story. We more finished Kimberly's story. Because, you know, her story ends with her giving birth and then losing too much blood and then dying. And so Shishona is going to be, taking care of her kid. But we didn't really finish Shishona's story. We didn't finish that side of the story, just like we didn't really finish Kim and Shigo's story. Like, okay, they started dating, but but with everything that went on in the epilogue, there's more story that needed to be told to, kind of finish every little plot thread and plot hole and everything, like with Nana, with Kim's side of the family. Like, we know why Shishona was named after her ancestor, but, we didn't get anything from the possible side of the family outside of, the house that Kimberly owned. That's pretty much it. And I just think there is so much more mileage out of the story that there needs to be a sequel. There legitimately needs to be a sequel finishing up their stories. That's pretty much what I have to say. And, with the epilogue, just finish up the little plot lines, and then, have the epilogue be on the second story. Like, you just leave the epilogue as is, just move it to the second story. I think that would have been fine. But with the epilogue as is, it kind of makes the ending of the main story completely redundant because because it felt like it was left open-ended and leading to a sequel, and then we get this epilogue that kind of ruins the mood, and I just think that's more like killjoy than anything else. But that doesn't detract from the story. That just detracts from the idea of that you're going to have the epilogue, then have the last chapter where Kimberly dies and everything, have that be more close-ended. Like, so like you can just kind of just redo the chapter before the epilogue, and kind of close as many plot lines as you can, and it'll be fine. But overall, I really do like this story. It's not as good as the 1 in a Billion series. That'll probably be the next story I do, but that'd be like 4 videos just doing those stories. I still want to talk to Starving Lunatic and try to, there's pick your brain. I'm doing mediation next week, so I'm happy about that. And once that happens, I'll probably invite Starving Lunatic to Discord and probably hopefully try and not screw up an interview, because I would actually really like to talk to other fan fiction authors and kind of pick and do it in like an interview style where we talk and we I would ask like Starving Lunatic, why do you love Kigo so much? What were your inspirations about the story? Why did you switch from Kim Possible to Once Upon a Time? Because now she does Once Upon a Time stories. And, everything. I would really love to see that happen. I'm a talkative guy. Sir, I take pause in this video, but I'm a talkative guy. But I really like this story. It's not as good as some of her other stories, but it's good on its own. I just really wish that the story didn't have that epilogue. I would have been okay with the open ending and not seeing a sequel. That would have been fine. It's just the epilogue just kind of killed it. So anyway, that's this review on Another Place, Another Time. Wait, is it? Yeah, Another Time, Another Place. My bad. This has been Dark Symphony 777, and cut.